You're locked in to the hottest station on the planet.
Resistance is futile. The revolution has begun.
You're listening to Rebelpreneur Radio, helping you break the rules and build the business you need for the life you want. And now, broadcasting his pirate signal
from somewhere beyond the status quo,
here's your host, best-selling author, marketing and media strategist, Ralph Brogden.
Hello and welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio, the show that helps you build the business you need so you can live the life you want. I'm Ralph Brogden. What is the life that you want, and how do you know when you are actually fulfilling your life's purpose? It's, for some reason, that's very mystifying to people, and thankfully there are people who can help us and guide us to figure out what our life's purpose is so that we can build a business that will deliver that life to us, and it's a life that we have designed, not something that someone else has chosen for us. So that's very powerful, So people who are gifted in this area who can guide us are very, very talented and very, very important to our life and our business. One of those gifted people is with me today. I'm speaking with Teresa Campos. She is a speaker and author and a coach to all those seeking a more fulfilled life. She works with individuals who know they are here to live a deeper purpose, but they feel stuck trying to live in alignment with that purpose. I can certainly identify with that. She helps them to identify changes that they need to make and to brave the terrain of those changes and guide them into a new way of being in the world. She is the book, or the author. She's the author of the book, and I guess she is the book as well. She's living the life, right? She's the author of the book, Braving the Self. Teresa Campos, welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio.
Thank you, Ralph. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you are really, I think, serving people at a very high level. If we don't know what we want in life, how in the world can we build a business that's going to give us that life if we don't know where we're going? So this is so critical. It's so foundational to building a great business and also living a great life. Tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get started in this direction? What's your story?
Yes, thank you. So I got started, let's see, I'm going to go back a little bit in time so I can kind of give a much broader view of how to help the listeners to understand how finding where we feel directed in our life and in our business evolves over time. And so early as a young child, I was a bit of a rebel, and rebel more in the terms of when I would hear mindsets that didn't align with what I was feeling inside, I would rebel against them. And for example, when I started first grade and I was in a private, I'm going to say religious school, when I first was introduced to what I was hearing in terms of the religion, it didn't sit right with me inside. And as a little girl, the only thing I knew to do was just to go to my mother and say, hey, do you know what they're saying to me, Mom? I mean, I don't understand why they're telling me these things that don't make sense to me. And even though, that's really as far as I went with it as a child, it really set the tone for me as I grew up is when I would be exposed to different mindsets and thoughts and conditionings that I would rebel against and go, wait a minute, that doesn't feel right to me. I don't know that I want to do it that way.
Well, that story sounds vaguely familiar. I think I can relate to that. I even started a radio show called Rebelpreneur.
Yes.
So yeah, I actually think that's a sign of high intelligence that we just don't accept the scripts and the stories that are handed to us, but we question those and we challenge those, and that is deep in the DNA, isn't it?
Absolutely, it really is. And so that really begins, the life journey, right? The soulpreneur, what you're talking about in your message as well, is that we are then moving toward that, and we don't even realize that we are moving toward something that is, going to challenge and really take us as a culture and as a evolutionary moving forward here into new ways of being in life and doing business and all of the above. So absolutely, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I love the whole approach of strategy. If you want a different result, you need a different strategy. And if you don't like the results that you're getting, you got to try a different approach. So all of that is evolutionary. It's embracing change. The only thing that's constant is that change is constant. Everything is going to change. The question is, are we changing for the better or are we changing for the worse? So you're helping people to get more aligned with their life's purpose and guide them into making those powerful changes and shifts that are going to be transformational.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I help them do. I really help them to connect with what that deeper purpose is inside of them that they feel. And I think that is probably one of the key things that is really important is the connection, because I see purpose playing out in I'm just going to say two ways. And I think initially purpose, a lot of people will think that purpose is a thing that they do. And while that is that, it shows up that way eventually. But initially purpose is about that feeling inside that we are living here for a particular purpose, and that we are not just getting up in the morning and life is mundane and there's no meaning to it. Because if we don't feel that we have some form of meaning to life, then we don't feel that we even have a purpose to even be living. So I think that's the initial place where we always want to look to begin with purpose, is from the internal place, and then the external place shows up. And I also think that purpose, we don't find purpose, purpose finds us.
Yeah. That's a powerful distinction. I've heard it said that your destiny is not your decision, it's your discovery. And
yeah,
I really like that. But I like what you say, that it begins with internally, that feeling inside that there is a deeper meaning. And then how do you align yourself with that meaning? Because I think a lot of people equate purpose to what they are doing for a living. These external things, and those things can change. Your purpose can be fixed, but the way you go about expressing it can change, can it?
Absolutely. It really can. And, one of the first places I always start when I start working with a client is I will always start, and this is a very practical way, but it leads to a much deeper result. And that is to really look at what we value in life. What are our personal values for life? Because and that's something that we may say, oh, I value honesty, I value authenticity, whatever that is for us. But until we really sit down and look at that and what we truly value, then we are not able to really get in alignment with those values for ourselves, because those values will dictate the choices that we make, whether we're living in alignment with those or not.
Wow, that's really powerful. And when I think back to situations that I got myself into as a younger man, usually the conflict was the result of not truly understanding and being able to relate to the differences in values. And I'll give you a great example. When I was younger, and of course I still have a family, but now my children are grown. But when I was younger with children, my biggest value was to be home with the family, to be there for the girls. And I was in a couple of work situations where they valued people that came in early and stayed late. And so if I had known going in, if I had enough sense to understand and uncover their values and saw that there was a conflict, I could have avoided a lot of misaligned values that created all kinds of negative results. So what you're saying is, let's get in touch with that now and figure out what really motivates us, what drives us, what do we value, so that we can be aware enough to be able to pick up on these situations before we get into them and cause all kinds of problems for ourselves.
That's correct. And to add another piece to that, since you brought up, the business and you gave that example, I love that at work. And what I also think is happening, and I think this goes along the lines of really like the Rebelpreneur radio theme that you carry is that our model for life, business, work is all changing because we're seeing how limited it has become for us as individuals to grow and to really live a fulfilled life when we have our work life and our home life so separate. Those values are, really all need to be all inclusive for this is our life. Because I look at my business, sure, I call it a business, but it's really not. It's me. My business is me.
Yeah.
And I want my business to feel and be have the experience of joy in my life when I'm in my business or when I'm out hanging out on the lake on the boat, something like that kind of a feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that my values are all aligned in my life in that way.
And that's what is so great about designing the life that you want and then designing the business that will give you the life that you want. And all of this is intentional. All of it is by design. It's by intention, and you create it in alignment with your values and with your purpose. But that's what you help people to do, to figure out what that is, what it looks like, and how all of those pieces fit together.
Yes, that's exactly what I do, because that's one of the groups that I am going to be starting here very soon. Is it's a community of it's called Your Life Design. Absolutely. And really looking at how we want our life, what we desire in our life. Because I think that so many of us can go through life and really not living what we truly desire. And going back to, the rebel archetype here that we're kind of talking about is that we will make choices based on the status quo of our family, our cultural society, whatever groups, community, religion, that sort of thing, and realize that that's not really who I want to be in the world. And so much of the work that I do with clients is helping them to understand who they are not initially, because I really believe we have to understand who we are not for us to see who we are.
Yeah, that's a real, that's a Star Trek approach, right? When you come up on the alien thing you don't understand, well, analysis, Mr. Spock. So, well, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this. So you eliminate what it's not, and this is the only option, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So sometimes it's longer than a 5-year mission. I mean, it could be a lifelong mission to figure out what you're not, where you're not, who you're not, and then by the process of elimination, what's left? Who are you? So very existential things that we are wrestling with here. So we're into the meat and potatoes of it already. That's excellent. Do you have an ideal prospect, or is there an ideal type of person that is really, really receptive to this in your experience?
Yes. What I find is that those who are most receptive, there's a couple, and one would be entrepreneurs, because the entrepreneurial spirit is one that is, they're pioneers, they're trailblazers, they're wanting to get out of the box. They're not the box. They're trying to, do something that people haven't done before. And the other ideal prospect are those that are individuals that can really sense that there is something missing from their lives. Like, they may have everything. They may have a great career, family, name it, all of those existential things like what you said, but there is still something missing. So those are my ideal clients.
Yeah. So with the people that you're working with, and I mean, this is a universal thing. All the religions, all the philosophies of the world are asking pretty much the same questions. Who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? And where am I going? So why is that such a hard thing for people? Why is it such a big problem, that we're not able to answer those questions, as easily as it seems like that we should?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big question you just asked me.
Yeah, I mean, I want all the secrets of life. You got to spill it right now. Tell us all the secrets of life that we haven't been able to answer for the last few billion years, but you've got to answer it now for us in the next few minutes, right?
In the next few minutes,
yeah.
yes.
No pressure at all.
Well, what's interesting about that, what you just asked me, Ralph, is that when you originally asked me about like what my story was, another piece of my story is that as I journeyed through my life and I got to a point where I was about 31 years old, and my mother was diagnosed unexpectedly, of course, as it always is, with cancer. And then very unexpectedly, she died 6 months later. And that was obviously a very profound time in my life. And I began to ask questions that I never even could believe was coming from inside of me. And they were those questions you just asked me. What is the meaning of life? Who am I? What am I here to do? What's my purpose? Is this how life is supposed to go? There's got to be something more to it. Mm-hmm. And so that's where my journey began. And this is what I tell people when they ask me what I believe about particular things, is I will answer the question and I say to them, this is what I believe today from what I understand of everything that I've experienced and all the wisdom that I gained. And tomorrow that answer may change because I may learn something new. So I really feel that it is an ongoing process for us of discovery. And that's just part of the human experience on this planet, on this earth, I should say, earth. So, I don't have the answers to those, but I do have the answers that I have come to right now in my life. And I truly believe that this is something that is even unanswerable on some level for us.
Yeah. And I guess asking the question of yourself continually is just as important as getting the answer. You'll probably never get all the way down to the bottom of the answer. And whatever answer you come up with is not going to be satisfactory to everybody everywhere. But I think the takeaway is how do we answer those questions? And then what do we do about it? How do we align ourselves, align our life's purpose and our mission and our values and our vision that is our best attempt today to answer those questions, knowing that if we're growing and changing and creating transformation in other people's lives and in our own life, those answers are going to, the answers that we have to things today may not be the same that we have the answers to next week or next month or next year. I mean, I look at life very differently now than I did 20 years ago. And if we're growing, then I think everybody would say that. If we're not growing, then that's another problem, right?
Absolutely. And what that brings up, what you just said, I love what you just said, because I think, it aligns with just what I just mentioned a minute ago, is that, we find as we're searching for those answers, we find our answers in that moment, and that becomes our answer. And as we continue to move forward to align even more with our most truest self, and I say that in the present moment, this is who my truest self is today, is that I really always like to ask clients to look at where they feel, where they see they are not honoring who they truly are in terms of how they're feeling. And that is a huge barometer for us. And that is something I think that many of us are out of touch with, is what we truly feel. Because when we are in touch with what we truly feel, then we feel in alignment with who we are, because that becomes our most authentic self in that moment, in that day.
Yeah. So it sounds like, it sounds like the big mission is to get everything in life aligned so that you're working with this great energy in a singular direction, instead of the feeling that you're being pulled in many different directions, and therefore your energy is diffused. You're in confusion, and people that are in confusion aren't really confident, and therefore they don't have the ability to really achieve the things that they want to achieve, or to be who they want to be, or who they feel like they want to be in their lives.
I agree. That is so accurate what you just said. I totally agree with that is the most important thing, is that being in alignment, and that can be a day-to-day thing. And that, I know for myself, that's one of my practices, is that every day I will reflect on that, whether it's through morning meditation or just through some quiet time or sitting at my desk as I sit down to work on something and saying, is this in alignment with what it is that the direction that I feel my life is being directed? And in that way, I answer that question.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy. Yeah, it is so easy for us to get into fear and to panic about everything that maybe we could be doing or that we're not doing or that we don't have enough time for. And then that gets us off track.
Yeah. I think that probably right along with what you're saying, one of the greatest frustrations is to feel like that you're not in control of what's going on, that things outside of yourself is directing your day-to-day activities, and that you feel like you don't have any control. And that's probably what draws so many people into the entrepreneurial lifestyle, is they want to have more control. They want to have more options for how they live their life. And I think being frustrated and feeling that you're not in control probably drives a lot of that rebellious behavior, doesn't it?
I agree, because what I'm hearing you say is that, when we are working in a limited paradigm, and that is how, now, because we are at a time in our life here, in our lives period, an era where limitation and how we live life is, we are in such expansion. And so the ways in which we set up these old paradigms of work are no longer serving and no longer in alignment with who we are all becoming. And so we feel that we are at the effect of life and our circumstances and our bosses and whatever. And the other part too is that we want more control. And I know you don't mean control from an ego perspective, but we want to have more freedom. We want freedom. And I love how, especially a lot of the younger culture, this entrepreneurial spirit that is so alive. I'm so excited about seeing this and all the different ways in which people are coming up with ways to serve and do business. And it's exciting. It's very exciting. It's part of our diversity of the world period that's happening, because we are seeing more diversity, and we have to. It's part of the creative process that's happening. It's evolution. It is evolution.
Yeah. And I think that evolution and that revolution is occurring in many areas of society, and hopefully it's happening in business as well, but it's revealed in language. And the language that I see, for example, if I'm reading through help wanted ads or ads that are trying to recruit people that are talented, gifted people, and very often it will have language in it that says something along the lines of must be able to multitask in a fast-paced environment. And that to me says this company is disorganized. This organization is a high-stress environment. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to properly manage work, and therefore that's not a company that I want to be aligned with. And I think that is the old way of thinking about work and thinking about business. And we've got to change. We have to adapt if we want to overcome and if we want to be competitive in recruiting the best people. We've got to create a paradigm shift. And if you're a company, great. If you are a business owner or a solopreneur, but you ever want to scale your business and you want to attract employees, you cannot project onto them this same corporate mentality and think that you're going to create the business you need for the life that you want. You're just going to make things worse for them and worse for yourself. So it's really an inside out transformational paradigm shift that we need in every area of our life, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you brought something up really important here, is that as we evolve, it's like when the cell phone came out and some people said, well, I'm not getting a cell phone. And, it's the same idea of either we're going to move with where evolution is going, or we're going to be left behind.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what it comes down to, because whether it's evolution, consciousness, whatever it is that we're talking about, I don't think there's anybody out there still walking and not driving a car or using some form of transportation to get to A to B.
Right.
It's all part of where things are moving, and it is exciting. I mean, sure, it moves fast. I understand that, but we can be with this wave of what's happening that can be in alignment with ourselves if we are being present with what we're feeling and what is going on inside, like you said, the inside out.
Sure, absolutely. Teresa, we have a few minutes left, but I really like to get into the self-help process for listeners, because when we share these things, we share these ideas and these principles, and it really resonates with them, and they're left wondering, okay, well, how do I do this? How do I make the change? And I realize that they really need to work with someone like you who is really talented and gifted in this area that can guide them. And it's not a quick fix, but having said that, do you have a 2 or 3 step process that could help people begin to take the first steps in the right direction of making these shifts and getting more aligned with who they really are?
I do. And these are very simple. And the first one I'm going to mention is going to be something that I know many people hear, but I'm going to elaborate just a teeny bit on it. And the first thing is to develop a meditation practice. And really overall what it is developing some type of spiritual practice in our lives, because that is really important for us. And how I'm going to define spirituality for this, what I'm going to speak about is about connection, is we need to be connected to ourselves, what we feel. And in that way, it begins to open things and change things. And so I always suggest starting with a meditation practice, even if it's only for 5 minutes. And it is just about concentrating on the breath. Just be with your breath. Be still. Thoughts come in, you gently guide them out. You don't push them out. You don't control them. So there's that right there. And the other thing that I like to encourage people to do is to begin to do some form of writing for themselves, because we have to empty out what's inside. We really do. Because if we don't, we're like our computers. Because we are moving toward the connection between, technology and the human being itself. So we really have to clean out what we're storing. We got to empty the trash. So that's really important. Those are just a couple things. And, I do have many more, but for time purposes, I think that's a great way to start. That's
a great way to start, and it's not overwhelming. It's simple,
right?
And it's a way to begin this process of self-help, but that eventually culminates in reaching out to someone who can help us. So tell us in a few minutes, what are you working on right now that's got you really excited that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yes. Well, the first thing is that I have just written my book, and it is out now on Amazon, and it's called Braving the Self, The Journey of a Spiritual Warrior. And what I love about what I produced here is that I set it up to be a workbook for people. So it's not a book where you have to sit there and, read through the whole thing to get anything out of it, to get something out of it, because time is definitely important for us. And so in my book, there are 49 keys that I highlight that are different areas of life. And it has everything to do with what we spoke about today, of where you can go in and read these 1 or 2 paragraphs. And then on the other side of the page, there is an opportunity for you to write and contemplate what you have just read based on the question that I ask you. And so that I'm really excited about that book. And I'm also turning that into a Your Life Design group coaching program that I'm going to be opening up here in the next month or 2. And so that's all coming together really well. I've been doing this already, but now I'm going to be offering it on a larger scale to people. And when I mean large, I keep my groups pretty small when I do this kind of work, because it is very intimate and personal work, and I want people to feel that they are being acknowledged and seen. So I keep my groups to about 8 people.
Okay. All right. So if if you're listening to this and this resonates with you and you want to check out more, you should go to teresacampos.com, and that's TeresaCampos.com. Everything balances out very nicely. teresacampos.com, and you can find out more about her book and her upcoming programs and all the things that she has to help you live a more fulfilled life. So, Teresa, this has been really, really exciting to connect with you and to discuss these very philosophical, but also very practical things that we can do to build a better business and build a better life. Any final thoughts or words of wisdom you'd like to leave us with?
Yes. I believe that we are in a time right now in our life, in our world, where we are being called out in a way that we have not been called out before. And the changes in the world that are happening are compelling us to be seen and to act differently. And I truly feel that it is our responsibility to do that for each of us, to step into that bigger sense of self, whatever that may be for each of us individually. So, we are in an exciting time. We are in a difficult time. We are in all of those kinds of times right now. But more than anything, we are being asked to step up and being called out.
Words of wisdom from Teresa Campos. She is a speaker and author and a coach to all those seeking a more fulfilled life. She helps people to identify changes that they need to make. She helps them brave the terrain of those changes and guide them into a new way of being in the world. She's author of the book, Braving the Self, and you can find out more about her by connecting to her website at teresacampos.com. We'll have that link on our website as well. Teresa, it's been a real pleasure to get to know you. Thanks so much for being on Rebelpreneur Radio today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ralph. It was an honor to be here, and I loved our conversation. Thank you.
You've been listening to Rebelpreneur Radio with Ralph Brogden. Download the show notes and much more at rebelpreneur.com.